So guys, we have a final panel before lunch. It's on Web3 wallet evolution. Please welcome your moderator, Shagun Kaki, and we have Evgeny, Yurtaev, Pedro Gomes, and Isaac Rodriguez. Clap it up, everybody.
Hello. GM, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Shagun, and I'm the founder of a PR agency for emerging tech. And it's a pleasure to share the stage with the people behind some of the most impressive crypto wallet projects. And yeah, we're going to discuss all things about crypto wallets, how they've evolved over time, the security, privacy concerns facing around them, and all the issues surrounding them. So why don't we just do a brief intro, and then we can move ahead with the discussion.
Sure. Is this? Oh, hello, everybody. Excited to be here. I'm Evgeny. I'm a founder and CEO of Zerion. Zerion has been on the market for a while. Most of you probably know it as a DeFi aggregator, but about a year ago, we've actually pivoted into, not expanded to become a wallet. So we're now one of the biggest challengers for MetaMask. So if you haven't tried Zerion, I encourage you to go and check it out, so you'd see the difference instantly.
Hey all, I'm Isaac. I'm the co-founder of Dawn. Dawn is a self-custodial wallet that is focused on making it seamless to use dApps on the phone. We first launched a Safari extension recently, so you can just interact and sign any dApp straight from Safari. It's an honor to be here. I'm from Barcelona. I've been on the Ethereum ecosystem since 2017, but it was not until I moved from Barcelona to San Francisco that I started working on wallets. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Pedro, founder and CEO of Wallet Connect. If you guys don't know, Wallet Connect is actually not a wallet, but it enables wallets to connect to dApps remotely. So we focused first on mobile to desktop and expanded to mobile, and now pretty much every wallet uses our protocol. And Wallet Connect Cloud is the infrastructure layer that enables multiple services as Wallet Connect, also domain verification, blockchain API access, and essentially building SDKs for dApps.
Awesome. So we'll dive right in, and my first question to you, Evgeny. As crypto wallets have evolved over time, what are the key technological advancements that have contributed to the scalability and also the usability of this?
Definitely. This is, I would say, a very, that's the right question, first of all. So there were a lot of things that changed over the time, but I think what contributed to the shift in how people perceive the wallets was the expansion of the number of things people can do within their wallet. So it started off by just having a few tokens in a wallet, but as dApps started to become more and more useful, I think wallets had to adapt. So a lot of the UX that changed around the wallets was to support more an ever-growing list of use cases that people experience within their wallet. So now I think what happened is wallets became kind of like a center of your Web3 journey. So you start with the wallet, you sign transactions with your wallet, and everything related to each part of this user journey has changed pretty much drastically over the last maybe 4 years or so.
Got it. And Pedro, you mentioned when you said your intro that Wallet Connect is not actually a wallet. So I want to ask you, what are some wallet types? There are different types of wallets, and what are the unique benefits that they bring, and what considerations should users keep in mind when navigating this or wanting to use?
Yeah, so basically wallets can be categorized into 4 platforms. You have hardware wallets, you have mobile wallets, desktop wallets, and then you have a special category of cloud wallets. These cloud wallets can be custodial or can even rely on technologies like MPC. And that essentially focuses on the platform that are actually managing your keys, but also how they manage their keys. But then on top of that, you have to actually take into account the account management. So you will have your normal wallets that have no special features and are basically just a key signing for transactions. And then you have your smart accounts, which sometimes people call it smart contract accounts. And that will be when you actually deploy a smart contract to actually manage your account. And then it's a combination between which platform do you want to use and which type of accounts that will essentially will allow you to find the best wallets for you.
Awesome. And crypto wallets are, have this reputation that it's like a do-it-yourself, more secure kind of wallet. But also there are some, challenges. There are hacks, and we hear things of wallets getting hacked also. So I want to ask you, Isaac, like what are some of the recent advancements in wallet security, and what challenges remain in ensuring the protection of users' digital assets?
Sure. So the crypto actually need to, like the crypto wallet need to face this in two different branches. So the first one is like, how do you protect the private key? Like, actually, there is no malicious actor that can extract the private key from your device. And secondly is, how do you present the data to the user that can actually know the context that what they are gonna sign before actually signing it? So on the first part, you need to actually make sure that no one can extract the private key from your device, right? So there's some techniques that you can implement, like biometrics, or actually preventing that your private key gets leaked on memory. It's like more technical, but you need to make sure that no one can have access to the private key. And secondly, you need to simulate the transaction, because like, for example, Uniswap, you actually sign to a message and a transaction. So how do you know, how the user know that they are actually signing an approved allowance, right? So before that, you need to show the user the whole context, so they actually sign what they want to sign.
And Evgeny and Pedro, feel free to add, what you feel about wallet security. And
Let me go. So first, I definitely agree with Isaac. So there are two crucial security considerations, so account management and transaction signing. So I think it's a little easier on the transaction signing side. So for example, we at Zerion, we do transaction simulation to basically ensure that every transaction that you sign is basically what you intended to do. And I think this could be taken even further. So there's phishing protection, there's emulation of what actually happens to match whether the dApp is legitimate versus what you're signing. On the key management side, I think I definitely agree with Pedro. So smart accounts are one of the, it's, I think, a component to the future of a more secure interacting with blockchains, because we still want to have self-custody for the keys, because that's the defining criteria for, like, I would say, for a success of a wallet. But at the same time, we want to provide recovery and without, and basically gasless transactions. So these are two big UX challenges that users are faced with. So smart accounts together with MPC would allow to solve both of these things, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I would just add that gasless transactions is extremely important because users are too caught up with the technical aspects of the blockchain. So we now have the infrastructure to actually solve this. And people have been talking about how MEV can be redistributed to users to incentivize more usage, but I actually don't think that's a good idea. Like, honestly, they kind of just don't want to pay for gas. Like, just use the MEV to not pay for gas. And now wallets have actual business model. They can just take a spread from the MEV and the gas, and they actually have a profit, and the users don't have to pay for gas.
Yeah, on that, Evgeny, we had a chat a little bit before this panel, and you asked me to ask you about a very important topic, that is monetization for crypto wallets. So I want to ask you, like, how can crypto wallet providers effectively monetize their services, and what are some different ways to do it?
Thank you. And this is a little bit of a response, I guess, to Pedro. We did some evaluation on basically whether wallets could monetize MEV, but at the time of like us doing this evaluation, this is still like you need to be a certain size of a wallet, and there are actually not too many that are able to successfully monetize from that. I think the current somewhat working monetization path is basically the swap fees, and pretty much every wallet has this. But I honestly don't feel this is like a great idea long term, because trading is only one of the use cases for wallets. So for example, in Zerion, more than half of the transactions are now done on dApps. So people are just using different things rather than just trading. And over time, it creates a wrong incentive. So if we're incentivizing trading to basically earn more money, then we're becoming more like a Robinhood type of application, whether in my view, wallets should actually become more like browsers where you connect to different use cases. So this all leads us to basically, we're trying to find ways to monetize on basically aligning with the user. So whenever a user makes a transaction, there should be a payment, no matter what kind of transaction that is. So that's our current take. And MV is like only part connected to trading as well. So we're trying to find like what's the balance basically.
I'm also curious to know what Pedro and Isaac think about this.
Yeah, definitely like MEV, like you are subtracting value from the user, right? So it's not look like good from the ecosystem that you are actually monetizing out of your users. And ultimately, it's also maybe a potentially like subscription, right? So wallet ends up like offering like extra features if you actually subscribe to the wallet. Or even potentially like insurance, right? You're insuring the user, and you can offer that. Yep.
I actually think the best analogy for wallets is how data providers work today. So everyone has a SIM card, and you have a plan, and you have an amount of gigabytes that you could use. And in some countries, people actually thought that it was not very good for net neutrality for some ISPs to essentially subsidize data for certain applications. But I actually think this is how wallets actually going to go, where, for example, maybe Uniswap wants to partner with Dawn, and for every transaction, users don't actually pay for gas, so that doesn't get deducted for their subscription. Or maybe OpenSea does a partnership with Zerion, and now every time you sell an NFT, that doesn't get deducted on your gas balance. So all of the users would like pay a monthly fee to use these wallets, which would account for maybe like, oh, you can do X amount of transactions per month, but if you use one of our partners, doesn't actually count for your amount of transactions per month. So, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just have to kind of be a little bit more aggressive. But because Web3 is so new, charging is actually going to kill adoption. So we kind of have to wait until it grows big enough.
I definitely agree. So we are actually piloting the premium subscription basically. It's going to launch in, like, I would say this quarter actually. Yeah, this is very interesting. There, like the challenges right now is how do we charge the user effectively for the subscription. But outside of that, I think that's the most fair way to monetize if users are willing to pay for extra security, extra data in the wallet. Yeah.
I guess you could just use like the same way people top up their cards in the SIM card. You know, just top it up so next month it doesn't stop running out of like data.
That would be cool. But I think for that we need first to move to smart accounts. And that's a challenge in and of itself.
I think that's like the conclusion of this talk. It's going to be like, if you're not a smart account, there's no Web3 wallet evolution.
But like one thing I'm also personally curious about, because there are quite a few wallets as well in the space. So do you think like more wallets are going to like go down the road of finding like other monetization aspects, and how is it going to affect like the overall like wallet ecosystem? So I mean, Pedro, you shared an interesting view that you think that it's going to happen, but like a little bit later. So yeah, how do you feel like more wallets are going to take this route? Like how is it going to affect?
I don't know the answer right away, I think. Looking at big wallets, I think they're doing just fine. Like MetaMask is earning, you know, I think it's close to 100 million in the last 2 years, yeah, they're just basically monetizing the users who don't know that they can go outside of MetaMask and swap, or they're just farming for airdrop. So this seems a little impossible for other wallets. So we definitely need to find like a industry consensus of how wallets are monetized and who is paying for that. Yeah, but I don't think like so far, for instance, there were some attempts at tokenizing the wallet, and that was not very successful, and I can see why.
So right now it's like still in the experiment like phase.
I mean, I think Web3 technology is very special, but we're not. And I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but we're just repeating the dot-com boom all over again. You know, let's not rush to build the pets.com, which was like the first pet store online, and then it just died. It was a $1 billion business on paper that never went anywhere. So it's all going to be about who can survive until we actually have adoption. And there's going to be a lot of pivots. Some wallets might become infrastructure providers. Some wallets might actually just do full customer experience for dApps, you know. Doesn't mean all wallets are going to survive, but they all have to find their niche or what they do best. So good luck for you guys.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with them. Ultimately, we should all find, because there is like, wallet is a crowded space, and ultimately, the winning wallet is going to have like the leading role on all of that.
Got it. And another key thing about wallets is also, the user experience, which is like a crucial, especially for mainstream adoption as well. How have crypto wallets simplified the onboarding process and bettered user interfaces to make it more accessible to wider audiences? All three of you can share your views on this.
Honestly, there's a company that's been trying to do this for a long time called LinkDrop. And basically, they tried to create almost like a pre-wallet, so people could essentially gift other people assets like NFTs and tokens before they even have a wallet. That's by far the best onboarding solution, but we don't have smart accounts yet. So it really doesn't really play along nicely with like normal accounts. And I think they were very early with the idea, and I think that's essentially how every wallet's going to onboard. They're going to turn into a smart account. You'll be able to deposit some assets, let's say NFTs and tokens, or maybe an ENS name, and then that will actually incentivize people to actually create the wallet. And with smart accounts, you can actually do this really interesting thing where the account exists before it's even deployed. So you can essentially associate an asset with the pre-wallet, and then they actually, once onboarded, you can actually justify deploying the smart contract for them. So once we actually get to that stage, onboarding is going to just explode. And I think normal accounts is really slowing us down right now.
Well, this may be a like, controversial take, but I will say it's much easier to just import your EOA than deploying a smart contract. Right now, it's like if you end up like deploying a smart contract, it might cost $20 on mainnet, and if you on the future, which I believe is like cross-chain, then you will need to deploy the wallet on all these chains. So currently, I don't see it. Like, I see like much easier just starting with the EOA than actually going through the path of a smart contract in terms of like onboarding. And also, I will say like the smart contract sets a feature parity with the centralized exchanges. So it's not like you are like improving the UX compared to the centralized exchanges. You are just setting like a parity with them. So actually, you will need like some use cases that will drive this next adoption of the next billion on Web3.
I think I agree in some part with both of you. So as a wallet in this market, so smart accounts are not really feasible at the moment because they have, basically we can look at the Argent example. So that's a smart account from like 5 years ago. And basically they were all faced with, and other attempts faced with an issue of gas. It just became unbearable, and deploying a smart contract wallet is expensive. Also has a limit at where you can go with the smart account, because you need to have an account on every different chain. So if you want to interact with Optimism, Arbitrum, where the transactions are cheaper, you need to have a deployment across all of them. So that becomes a little bit of a messy user experience as you progress towards in your Web3 journey. So EOAs are still holding some advantage. They do have the problem of recovery and disability to make gasless transactions. So I think we would have to have a little bit of a push on the smart accounts first, before maybe like integrate it more natively into the protocols, maybe making these operations cheaper. All of that together can get us to like basically parity with EOA in terms of where it can, where users could go with the smart account. And afterwards, I think we'll have like smart accounts everywhere. That's the take. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think what has happened in the past is like teams like Safe and Argent essentially built their own smart accounts, and there was a lot of like miscoordination. And now with this 48, well, I actually forgot the name, 4337, it started this movement where all the smart accounts started collaborating and actually writing one standard for them all. And Wallet Connect actually is compatible with 244 wallets. And this is the biggest problem that I always face, is like I get feedback from the wallets and then I just realize, actually, if you guys just worked together, this would have been much faster, you know? So smart accounts could have actually progressed a lot easier if people actually have collaborated in the past. So 4337 might be the start of a lot of collaboration, and we're already seeing an explosion of smart accounts thanks to that. So I think it will get much faster in terms of progress because of this standardization.
What kind of like collaborations do you also see it like facilitate?
I mean, the good thing about collaboration is that you end up having like more resource efficiency. If you think about Argent and Safe, they were one of the first smart account wallets, but they also had to have their own infrastructure. They had to justify having gasless transactions. They had to justify transaction validation. They had to build all of that independently, and it was duplicating work. And now what's happening with 4337 is that wallets actually don't even need to run servers for this infrastructure. And now there's dedicated teams focused on the actual server side component of smart accounts, while the wallets can focus on the user experience. So that level of collaboration almost comes out of the modularity that standardization enables. So Zarian and Dawn, for example, can focus on building the best user experience and then just use an infrastructure provider that enables gasless transactions.
I mean, I agree. So I think we definitely benefit from standardization. Yeah, and I think that the effort that the whole industry is putting behind 4337 is good overall. So we might actually solve the challenges that other people face with smart accounts, yeah, sooner or later.
Awesome. And I want to go back a little bit on security and privacy. And one of the major spaces in the space is DeFi, right? So I want to also ask you, what are the potential risks and security considerations associated specifically with interactions with DeFi through wallets? Maybe Isaac can share a little bit.
Sure. So yeah, basically, a wallet is holding people's assets, right? So it's really important, to put a lot of effort on that, right? So on DeFi especially, as I said earlier, like a user who faces the wallet needs to actually know what they are signing, right? That's why this simulation is the crucial part on all of that.
Yeah, would you like to share, Evgeny and Pedro as well?
I can comment on this because Zerion was historically a DeFi aggregator, so we've actually done a lot of work, basically useless work in retrospect, of bringing all the different DeFi protocols inside our own interface. And I think the reason why it was not widely successful is that there's a trust involved, and people don't want to see a reskinned version of Compound or Maker. So I think the state of the market we're in is that users still think in terms of applications rather than protocols, and that leads to them trusting the native experiences much more. So they would rather go to Uniswap directly than even swap on 1inch, even though 1inch is, for example, almost always or pretty much always better in terms of the rate. So I think we've kind of, basically these interactions within Zerion, we've stripped them away and focused on what Isaac is saying is basically validating that the transaction that you're signing is what you intend to sign, and helping user make the correct choice. Help user make the choices that they intended to make, rather than, just sign something phishing.
Just trusting the other native ones.
Yes.
Is it because they have this bias, and is there anything that they should know about it that they're missing out on?
So if I understand correctly, you're saying about different opportunities that people can find in DeFi, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a little different. So what we've done is basically help user find the opportunities by, we have the perks section, and that's been pretty successful actually, because people they can instantly see what are they eligible for within the wallet, so they can know, for example, to claim an airdrop or get some NFT that they can mint, or et cetera, et cetera. So that's discovering opportunities rather than actually providing this opportunity and surfacing these in the wallet, because that's more dangerous, and you cannot validate every single application or protocol.
Got it. And my next question is for anyone who wants to take this. What is the role of multi-sig wallets in institutional settings, such as for custody solutions or corporate accounts, and how they address the need for shared control and security among multiple stakeholders?
I mean, when we're talking about smart accounts, this functionality is already built in. I actually like focusing on the smart aspect of it because it essentially allows for a little bit more flexibility on how you actually handle transactions, how you actually handle recovery, but also how you actually handle keys. So having a smart account could be having multiple entities controlling an account, or it could be a single entity, like an individual, that just has keys in multiple devices. For example, having a key in your laptop and your phone, but controlling the same account would be really beneficial. But the same mechanism that you build to going mobile and desktop signing is the same thing as having, I don't know, 3 people signing for a company. So I think all of the development that we're doing with smart accounts is going to be accelerated if we focus on individuals, and then it will translate into the multi-sigs. And most of the companies have been focusing on multi-sigs because they were in high demand, but actually the users actually needed this first, and maybe it's the lack of monetization that has been stopping that. But they're essentially the same thing. Smart accounts for like multiple entities, and the single entity is the same.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. Yeah. Also, you know, we chatted also about something very interesting, that is, as crypto adoption is growing, wallets are becoming a target for regulatory scrutiny. So how are wallets adapting to comply with regulation, and what are the trade-offs between privacy and regulatory compliance? And how is that different? You know, we talked a little bit about how that's different in different regions. So Evgeny, if you want to share something about it.
Yeah, so this is a pretty tough topic. So I think we're still missing clarity, in short, across the industry, and specifically for non-custodial wallets. I think it's been improving on the centralized side. So centralized crypto is now becoming more and more regulated. I think it's still very much a gray zone, and has, like, the regulation varies across each country for non-custodial, self-custodial wallets. And I think the reason is primarily people still don't understand how exactly users are going to use wallets. So an example I like to give is, imagine you're using a wallet to trade, say, like binary options, or do like some kind of casino. Then that kind of activity is regulated in some countries for sure. And the question is, who's going to be responsible for that activity, like for the KYCing of the user, whether that's the application or the wallet. Another example could be very harmless. So if users are just minting some kind of NFT, you don't really need to KYC them for that kind of transaction. So my feeling is that basically based on what you do in your wallet, it would require a different KYC level. So initial first operations with your wallet would definitely not require any KYC, and maybe it's going to evolve closer to become like a browser-like. So you don't KYC with a browser, you KYC with a specific application. So I think that's something similar, I believe, we're going to see in the crypto Web3 space.
Yeah, I also encourage to know your thoughts about what is happening right now with Coinbase Wallet. It's like SEC is claiming that Gomes wallet is offering securities, and then it's like you need to be a licensed broker to actually offer these securities. As my understanding right now, it's not regulated, so it's a gray zone. It's like when Airbnb or Uber started, ultimately you will need to follow the guidance of these people. So yeah, I would like to know your thoughts in terms of what is happening right now with SEC.
We looked at basically different risks. I think right now, if we had clarity, like specific guidance, it would be much easier to follow. But now I think we just cannot do much. It's not worth doing, going 5 steps ahead of the time without any clarity, because otherwise we would just be wasting resource. So yeah, we'll see how this case turns out with Coinbase, and probably that's going to give us at least some measure.
I mean, I think that's also one of the friction points where people are still stuck in the normal accounts, right? Because with normal accounts, it's kind of black and white. the user is in control of the key and is self-sovereign. But then once you go into the smart accounts, you have a little bit more involvement from the wallets to actually deploy a smart contract, and then you have the transaction relayers that actually do the actual transaction submission. So because this completely changes of how traditional finance works to the new decentralized finance, the regulators haven't really adapted, and they're just going to try to apply the traditional patterns into these new patterns, and it's not going to be accurate. So once we actually see a good understanding of how smart accounts for account abstraction work, then we actually are going to see wallets not so fearful of like getting attacked for, you know, actually doing some evolution on the wallet side.
I just want to quickly add. So I think the question becomes who will end up being regulated. So maybe like actually the people who are processing certain transactions would require KYC, and who gets that, it's like a different question. But I think it's not necessarily basically the wallets. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that would be like a good outcome for the whole non-custodial space. But yeah, we'll see how the regulator thinks about that.
Yeah, in traditional finance, you have what's called a money transmitter license, where you're the facilitator of an actual financial transaction. So technically, the transaction relayers, or sometimes they're called paymasters or bundlers, they would actually be the ones that will likely get KYC. So then wallets might need to use a form of an aggregator where you have multiple options. So the user can actually use Zerion or Dawn wallet, but then actually see, oh, do I want to use this particular transaction relayer or another one? Because different jurisdictions might have different requirements.
And taking all this into consideration, and also what we talked about previously, how do you anticipate wallets evolving to meet the changing needs and demands of users in the coming years?
I feel like this is like the answer is again smart accounts probably. So we've talked quite a lot about that, but I think we can draw back from Vitalik's recent post about the 3 transitions. So we haven't really talked about privacy, which is one of the also crucial points in I think wallet adoption overall, because you don't want to everybody know how much money you have at any point of time, and also like every time you sign a transaction, you should assume that's public. And I think once we kind of move away a little bit, at least from that, so we'll have some kind of privacy merged with social recovery and gasless transactions. I think these 3 pieces would help us to get better adoption. Yeah, that's just a summary of Vitalik's paper. But
So yeah, I will also add, like, I do believe in a second order effect that might emerge, like new use cases emerging through like this seamless connection between the dApp and the wallet. So if you are offering to the user, to the end user, like better connection with the dApp, maybe there will be new use cases that emerge out of that. Yeah.
I mean, I told you, like in the beginning, it's all going to be smart accounts. Like it's going to solve all the problems, but it does get its limitations. At the end of the day, wallets are a special type of applications on Ethereum and EVM chains. If Ethereum and EVM chains do not implement privacy-preserving technology, then there's nothing wallets can do. You know, wallets are limited to the extent of what Ethereum and EVM actually enables. So with the smart accounts, we are kind of like pushing the boundary of what you can do with wallets, but there's a limit to it. So we can give social recovery, we can give gasless transaction, we can give better account management, but we can't give privacy if EVM does not provide privacy.
Yeah, and in normal mobile wallets, like there's an integration of biometrics, fingerprints, and facial recognition. So what in Web3 wallets, what are the security implications and drawbacks of using biometrics or facial recognition, and how can wallets kind of strike a balance between convenience and security?
I will say it also depends on how the wallet implements that biometrics. So I saw some wallets that they implement in biometrics but can be hacked. Let's be honest. So the wallet needs to make sure that the biometrics gets implemented correctly. I mean, like your private key gets encrypted using the biometrics, not just a client that some attacker can just bypass this client-side check.
Why is it hard?
No, it's not hard. It's like then you need to use these techniques that we're using, like secure enclave. Like you encrypt on the OS system. You're not on the client-side system.
So I get this question a lot. Like when I built Wallet Connect, I basically said mobile wallets will win, and then people just kept saying, that's very unsafe. Mobile wallets are unsafe. Well, it's not really true. When you actually look at the evolution of operating systems on desktop and mobile, mobile is actually way more secure than your desktop. So if you have keys in a browser extension like MetaMask on desktop and you have keys on a mobile wallet, in the mobile wallet you actually have what's called sandboxing, where each application has access only to its information and there's no shared data between applications. But there are nuances of how you actually store this data, like Isaac was saying. When you actually have a key, you have essentially two patterns, which is key storage and key signing. You can store a key very securely and then just compromise the key in the moment you actually sign, which is what Isaac is talking about, how you actually implement the biometrics. When you access the key to then sign, you can actually compromise it in that very small span of time. It might be like 100 milliseconds or even 50 milliseconds, but you can lose your key in that moment. So it's really down to how good the wallet provider has implemented key management.
And I will also add, like with a smart contract, you can deploy with a key generated in a secure enclave, which technically converts your mobile wallet in a hardware wallet, because basically no one has access to this key generated in the secure enclave.
Can you also explain the concept of hot and cold wallets and discuss, can we discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each in terms of accessibility, convenience, and also security?
So it goes back to the key storage and signing, right? So ideally, you always store your key in a cold place. And by cold, it means that there is enough isolation of the software that nothing else that doesn't require signing will access this. So when you have a hardware wallet, they have what they call a secure element, which stores the key and also signs it. So the only thing that goes inside of the secure element is the actual message or transaction that needs to be signed. In your phone, we could actually achieve this, but the problem is that the average phone does actually use the same cryptographic curves as the Ethereum blockchain. So every time you sign, we have to remove the key from the secure element, sign it outside of the secure element, and going back into the storage. So this is why it's called a hot wallet, because there's a moment where it's hot, where the key could be compromised because it's essentially accessible by multiple software. And this opens up to what's called a supply chain attack, where wallets are very complicated software. They might have thousands of dependencies, and dependencies just means like multiple software packages that are included in the same application. And there has been wallets, and you can go back, I'm not going to name the wallet, 3 months ago, where users lost their seed phrase because someone changed one dependency in the wallet, and it stole the keys of all of the users. And this supply chain attack was only possible because it's a hot wallet, right? So the key was extracted from the secure element into the actual application. In that split second, it was able to steal the seed phrase. And that's very unfortunate.
I agree. So I think we've been dealing a lot with these concerns. So like we would have to, we're going through rounds and rounds of audits just to make sure that like we do it at the best we can given the platform limitations. So yeah, I think we still have a long way to go. Ideally, we don't want to have all the funds sitting in one private key, because even if it's like one key is compromised, you're not losing everything. So that would be the best outcome, and I think that's like the future where we are headed. At the same time, protecting the private key as of right now, I think it's like a collaborative work between the platform capabilities and what we can do on our end to ensure that we're never, sending the private keys to analytics or stuff like, or like supply chain attack, not having too many dependencies that we cannot control, or at least like passing audits fixing the version of the library such that we are not getting any unexpected code loaded into the application.
Yeah, I will also add, as you said, like right now the security enclave on iOS doesn't support Ethereum's curve, right? But what we're doing, for example, is like we're leveraging that technology by encrypting the private key using a key generated there. So actually, no one has access, not even ourselves. So ultimately, the only one who might sign something is like you with your Face ID, your biometrics.
Right, and I come from a very mainstream background, so I'm always curious about this crypto wallet space. And right now, to me, from like an outsider's perspective, who's not very much involved in like the technical aspects of it, there are a lot of like crypto wallets in the space. I mean, from my perspective. But in this bear market, what does one have to do like to stand out? Like, what are some things that you think of that has to be there?
I'm personally very bullish with intents. So it's like abstracting away like how to do like an intent from actually executing it. For example, on Google you type of like receipt, right? But it provides you the end receipt. It doesn't provide the process. An example on that on this case, like I want to take out a loan, but I don't care on what chain, what protocol. So ultimately, you will extract away all of that.
I mean, I'm gonna be a buzzkiller. Like I already said, like there's nothing special about this. It's startups. If there's a bear market, don't die. Like that's pretty much the best advice I can give you. So you just have to be very quick on your feet. Like I think some wallets get too carried away with the latest trends. First there was DeFi, then one was NFTs. Maybe the next one will be like social and gaming. So you just have to be really quick to adapt. Like just enable users to do what they love the most. And if they're just following whatever is the latest trend, you have to be very flexible and not like commit yourself too much, but also not commit yourself too little to a particular trend so that you're not like caught up to be like, oh, you're the NFT wallet. And then nobody cares about NFTs. And now you're stuck in like the trend of 2021.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with what Pedro said. I think this is the trap that many wallets find themselves in. So Zerion, we started with DeFi, but we quickly realized that it wouldn't stop at DeFi, and there are other things in life than trading and yield farming, and users are interested in that, and that's why we've been shifting towards a more abstracted UI, so you can access any kind of dApp. And our role is basically supporting the things that users really want to do. For example, like from the latest example, decentralized social media was in the rise, as well as like music NFTs as an example. So yeah, adapting basically your experience to what users need in this moment, I think is pretty much important, such that, because like wallets have this quality of ossification over time. And if you look at MetaMask, it didn't really change over time as much. So they were right to they were one of the first. They kickstarted the whole, Web3 and dApps usage in a way. But at the same time, they haven't adapted as much to the needs of the users recently. And I think this is the moment where some competition to MetaMask can actually shine. I think that this is what we see happening.
I think we're a little bit short of time, and I'm going to move over there to see if there are any questions. So we have a couple of questions here. What is your opinion on ERC 4337, account abstraction and token-bound accounts? If anyone.
I think we talked about it for like 20 minutes. It's fine.
Okay, the other one is, are any efforts on UX of human readable cross-wallet addressings?
I mean, there's some efforts regarding that. Actually, I will give props to Safe Wallet for doing that. They started adding prefixes to addresses like ETH double column address, poly double column address, and that kind of allowed you to understand that the specific address matched the chain. So having this kind of like multi-chain, cross-chain experience would be really convenient. And maybe in the future this will be adopted by more wallets, so it will be easier for people to kind of realize what chain they're talking to.
I would just add that an effort needed on the domain side. So something like ENS is, I think, in a good position to basically take over that. So if you have like a single account that is being resolved to a certain chain that you need to send money to or interact with, I think that would be, that's better than having like long addresses in general.
The other question is, can you explain pros and cons of MPC, EOA, and smart accounts?
I can give it
Just really quick.
Yeah, I can give it a shot. So I think MPC is very useful for recovery. So you can split basically your private key into multiple shards, and you can basically have one share of the key sitting somewhere where you can verify in a different way that you're the person claiming to be. So in case you lose one of the shares, you can restore that through some third party without giving away the complete control over your account. At the same time, the limitation, as far as I understand right now, is that once you've created these shards, you cannot revoke them. So if you start losing your shards, then you would need to somehow re-encrypt the key, and this is where we're hitting the problem again. So the longer your key lives, the more chances are that more of the shards are compromised. And you cannot like rehash it because private key is already out there. So that's I think why we need to combine MPC with account abstraction, so we can always change the main owner of the smart account that is MPC.
The other question is, how unsafe is it to keep keys in the phone?
It's not. It's very safe. Use your phones, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
The last one, how do we solve the poor UX from injection? Can you give a progress update or the new EIP 6963?
Thank you for that question. I'm writing that standard, and I'm very happy to share an update. So EIP 6963, for those that don't know, have you ever had the unfortunate event of installing 2 browser wallets at once, and then the dApp doesn't even know which one it's connecting to, and it just randomly picks one? That's a huge problem on Ethereum, and EIP 6963 solves that. And it will allow for better browser wallet discovery, and not only will allow for better browser wallet discovery, which means that any new wallet can just immediately be recognized with a new logo and name, but it will also allow for multiple wallets to be connected at once. So with EIP 6963, we're now currently going into the review stage. So after the review stage, I would say that like maybe if we put some effort into it, 3 to 6 months, but Zerion already implemented it. So they actually already have it. So I don't know what you're waiting for. You have to implement it as well. So it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah, that's the last one, and we're also, the time is up, so this is the end of the last panel for the conference. Thank you so much for listening and all your amazing questions. Thank you to all the panelists. And yeah, have fun for the rest of the event.